You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we are talking about the American natural horror thriller film The Birds, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, released March 28th, 1963. Yes,
Ooh.
That The Birds, that Hitchcock, that 1963.
We're going way back this week in covering this movie. I have always been a fan of Hitchcock's work. This is one of my favorites, not my absolute favorite, which is a movie that I'll mention at some future episode of Wilhelm, because I'm saving it for that.
Nice.
However, I've always enjoyed this movie a lot, and I love Tippi Hedren. I think that, this was her first big movie role where it was a lead, and Hitchcock kind of, discovered her. So he put her in this movie, and she did another film with him later on called Marnie, and there were some definite issues between the two of them. But we're not going to get into that because that's not part of this podcast. We're going to talk about the movie.
Yeah, this is definitely the oldest movie we've covered.
It is.
And I like that. I'm excited to jump back to quite a classic.
It definitely is a classic. I remember one of the first times that I saw it, it scared me, but not really. It wasn't too scary.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the way that they filmed it and the way that they put everything together to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, even to this day, I think some of the higher intensity shots and scenes and stuff do hold up. Like, it is scary. Like, it has some moments that are very tense that I was like, honestly, kind of, ooh, like mainly just like when she's like, the lights are all out and she hears the fluttering and she's headed like up to the stairs to find out what's going on, and like it just kind of lingers on like the stairway with the flashlight on it, and I'm like, I'm just waiting for a jump scare, and I was like, I don't like this.
Hitchcock, at least in this film, he was more of a subtle tension building director and less of the jump scare that you see in some of the later films. When I saw that part, all I could think is, Melanie, run the other way. Don't go in there. Don't go up there. Please don't go up there.
So you should just leave it alone. If they're there, leave it alone.
Keep the door closed. Go back downstairs. Let them know. And just, no. Don't go there. Don't.
Yeah, but there's, a lot of good, like, ominous moments, of course, which, a lot of this is in the notes later, but whatever. Just those, like, moments, lingering moments where, like, the crows just kind of keep gathering on the playground, and you just see them sitting there. Or, when they're walking to Annie's house, or even after, at the very end of the movie, when Mitch is making his way through all the birds, like, standing around outside. And it's just this really calm, quiet, slow, ominous feeling where you're like, anything could happen at any point and you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I appreciate that it holds up really well after all of these years.
I know. It's such a classic film. And one of the things I was saving for production notes, but I might as well kind of talk about it here, is in 2016, the U.S. Library of Congress deemed The Birds as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, was selected for preservation in its National Film Registry.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's a classic film. I'm excited that we're covering something that isn't more recent, is actually digging a little bit deeper and going back into kind of like the archives to pull out, because we do have a really long list of movies that we plan to cover, and there are some on there that we've covered already, like Jaws, that was in the 70s. We have a lot of movies from all different decades, so it's cool to go back to this one and tackle something that is really suspenseful and well done. So I'm excited that we're going to break this down.
Yeah. And I've gone into my Google Maps and marked a bunch of places in Bodega Bay that I want to go visit if I ever wind up in that area. So
if you do that, we're going to have an episode where you come on and talk about going to those locations.
Right. If that ever happens.
You never know, Pig. You never know.
Well, with that, let's go ahead and get into the conversation about the movie. And we will start the way we always do. You've got some great behind-the-scenes stuff that always interested to hear.
All right. Well, this is what I have this week. It was filmed in and around Bodega Bay, California. It was loosely based on the 1952 novel of the same name by Daphne du Maurier. Hitchcock instructed Evan Hunter, who was the screenplay writer, to develop new characters and elaborate more on the plot while keeping true to du Maurier's title and concept. So it is a little bit different, but there are some connections. Special effects shots of attacking birds were assembled by film editor George Tomasini and then sent to special effects for enhancement. Walt Disney Studios animator and technician Uba Iwerks used the sodium vapor process, aka yellow screen, which he helped develop, to complete the final versions of the bird attacks on film.
Nice.
It is the feature film lead debut for Tippi Hedren, who's also the mom of Melanie Griffith. The budget for this film was $3.3 million, and it grossed $11.4 million at the box office.
Awesome.
It is 119 minutes, and Pake, bring on a synopsis.
All right. Synopsis here is, a wealthy San Francisco socialite pursues a potential boyfriend to a small Northern California town that slowly takes a turn for the bizarre when birds of all kinds suddenly begin to attack people.
It captures it so well.
Simple, to the point.
Simple, to the point. I think that first line is a riot because she does pursue him there.
Yeah.
And I question at times, like, I know you're interested in him. He's interested in you. But I'm really sure, honestly, she was going there to get the last word at first.
Yeah.
It was about getting the last word.
I referred to their, at least for like the first half of the movie, their relationship is like loathsome flirting.
Mm-hmm. I think that's accurate.
Yeah, they were very fond of each other and hated each other deeply at the same time. It was very strange.
Yeah. I found their relationship to be awkward, with chemistry, not really sure what they were feeling for each other. And like you said, loathsome. Like, she loathed him. She even told him that she loathed him. So, I don't think you can get much more blunt than that.
All right. So as we jump into characters, this one's actually really cool. I think that we get to start with who we have the most notes and stuff about, which is Tippi Hedren's character of Melanie Daniels, because it has been something that I've noticed covering a lot of movies, and I've pointed out that even like the female leads have been very lackluster in a lot of movies. And this, it's actually really cool, and it shows a lot of kind of progression, like, or progressiveness, I guess, in a way of like Alfred Hitchcock. And, you know, in the year of 1963, where like we have a female lead who actually is like the main meat and potatoes of this movie. Like, you know.
She is, and she's complicated.
Yeah.
Like, she's a complicated girl. On the outside, she looks like, you know, this socialite, and she's got this penchant for pranks and practical jokes, and she's got lots of connections because her dad owns a newspaper, and she drives a beautiful Aston Martin.
Yeah.
She's...
Like James Bond or something.
Yeah, like
that's
James
what I was like.
Bond.
Aston Martin. It's in my notes. Aston Martin. Who does she think she is? James Bond?
I wouldn't honestly put it past her. I think that she might even be capable. She's pretty awesome. I like her a lot.
Yes.
I connected with her right away in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, there are still a couple of like sign of the times things that I noticed. Like, you know, even though she was a very complex and well thought of lead, there was still a lot of some of the, 1960s sexist tropes and things that were there. She did kind of still end up kind of being this weird, incapable damsel in distress in a lot of situations. And one thing I noticed was kind of funny is like the very beginning of the movie, this young boy walking by like whistles at her like catcalling wise, and like it took me, I had to like bring myself back to the 60s because she stops and then like smiles at him and then like walks off, and like I was waiting for him to like, oh, you pervy little brat, where are your parents? Like, and I was like, oh wait, no, 60s. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares.
It was a different time. And that's the thing when you cover a movie that is from earlier decades, is things were different in those decades. So we're going to see things like that pop out at us. Stuff that wouldn't really fly the way that it was filmed back then, as far as dialogue and scenes. And so we definitely have evolved since this movie came out.
Yeah. This one doesn't necessarily like a sexism thing, but just, again, I was like, yeah, it wouldn't make sense culturally, I guess, now. This was like, there's nothing weird about some strange lady just coming in and asking about how she's gonna sneak up to a house unseen because she wants to know this little girl's exact name. Nothing weird here at all. I'm sure the teacher will be totally helpful and just give her every information about her student that she admitted every, like,
but she did.
Yeah. Because like looking at it from a lens of today, I'm like, yeah, you're not getting away with that today. No matter what your intentions are, people are not going to help you with that.
And that shop owner, he was skeptical of her right from the start. Like, he's just like, you're asking me where to get a boat. He's having to take her outside to actually point across the bay where things are, because she's just like, she's clueless. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I went back and forth thinking, okay, you have the potential to be a badass, but you're so caught up in not knowing how to handle things that you're a damsel in distress. And I just go back and forth between that, because I feel like she had those moments and she was super strong in some instances.
Oh, yeah.
But then she would regress back into needing Mitch to take care of her.
Yeah. That's, that's a complaint there, is when you get... But at the beginning of the movie, definitely, you really see a lot of her. I, since Loki is out now, I make a reference to the first episode of Loki. When I'm watching, I was like, oh, apparently Melanie is quite the mischievous little scamp.
Well, she is, and we don't really even know that at first. When she first walks into that shop, she's just a socialite, going to pick up a minor bird. We don't know anything about her till Mitch arrives and starts playing his little prank. Which, again,
she's picking up a minor bird. This pet store, a pet shop that's selling, like, monkeys and toucans, was that a thing? Like, I want to know what these pet shops are. Like, where do I find this? It's probably not good. You probably shouldn't be buying and selling those kind of animals anyway. But
no. And we learn later she wants to get the minor bird to teach it bad words and then give it to her aunt that she doesn't like.
Right.
Like, you are mischievous. And I like that about her. I like that she was kind of effervescent, I guess.
Yeah.
Her personality, she wasn't afraid to, like, pull these pranks. I mean, because she was trying to pull a prank. Mm-hmm. By pretending to work in the shop.
Yeah.
She didn't know who he was, but she was like taking him over and showing him, redbirds. Well, they're not really redbirds. That's not what they're called. And showing him canaries as lovebirds, which, nope, that's not what it is. And he knew that.
Yeah.
And so while she was trying to do a prank, he was also pranking her, and he got the last laugh. Mm-hmm. Because he did know who she was.
Yeah.
He saw her in court.
Mm-hmm. Through all of her antics. And him as a lawyer, he had seen her in there plenty of times.
Yes, he had. All of the silliness.
Yeah.
And her dad owns a paper, so she's able to, like, I'm guessing he's wealthy, and he's probably able to get her out of her messes.
Yeah. But even as Lydia, which is Mitch's mother, says, even with her father being in that position, it still doesn't keep her out of all the papers.
No.
She doesn't cover all of her antics. Yeah.
No. It might take care of the legal issues, but it's not going to take care of it getting out for everyone.
Yeah.
To learn. And you can tell that when Lydia first meets Melanie, she already knows who she is. Like, she's read the papers. She knows.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't a surprise. I think she's nervous. One, she doesn't want someone to get with Mitch and take him away from her. It's not so much about being possessive. She doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And because she lost her husband, which we'll talk about later, she and Melanie have this really good conversation where Lydia really opens up to her about what happened with Frank, and that it kind of, I think, helps connect them.
Yeah.
So that by the time we get to the end, Lydia's kind of more of this, even though Melanie was taking care of her at one point, Lydia's kind of reversing, and she's kind of taking care of Melanie at the end when we go to the attic of terror.
Yeah, it's a good, arch for both of them, like an arc for both of them, that, because, we get Melanie and Mitch having a conversation where Melanie opens up about her own mother abandoning her when she was young, and so she hasn't had any kind of mother figure. And then you can see the way she looks at Lydia at the end in the backseat of that car, where, it's kind of this family unit is building together, and that's... Yeah. The two of them have, this, love and respect for each other at the end, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I get the feeling that Lydia understands at the end that Melanie's not going to try to take Mitch away from her, and that she can be a daughter to her. Instead of losing Mitch, she's going to really gain a daughter. She's going to gain someone in the family to love. And Kathy already loves her, so I mean, it's like...
Easy.
You got to get on the bus, Lydia, because she's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And to add to her awesome, because we talked, about, her playful prankiness, but also there are some really good strengths to her. She is very skilled as far as, she is self-willed. She is determined. She's very determined. She's very resourceful. We see a lot of that kind of stuff. I mean, but yeah, but she knows who she is, and she's not going to, bend to other people. Even if she doesn't, if it rubs people the wrong way, she doesn't really care. And we see that at the beginning when she's talking to Miss Magruder, the owner of the pet shop, where she's just like, oh, if you just wait around, I'm sure the bird will be here. And she's like, no, you're going to deliver it to me because I showed up here at the time you told me, and it's not here. So now it's up to you to get it to me. She's very, and even...
Mrs. Magruder wants her to wait.
Yeah.
She wants her to wait there. Just let me call. Just let me call. And it's when she goes to call that Mitch comes in and the whole, who can prank who challenge goes.
So I feel like Miss Magruder was not very fond of Melanie, but that's okay. Because even, but again, the resourcefulness, because she's calling her brother Charlie over at the paper, I guess, who works for her dad, and uses him to track down Brenner using his license plate on his car and figure out all this stuff about... And then when Miss Magruder comes back out, and she's like, oh, they'll be here this afternoon. Do you want to come back? No, you're going to send it to me. You're going to deliver it.
Melanie's already moved on to another challenge that she's signed up for. Yeah. Which is getting the lovebirds so she can take them to deliver them to Mitch.
Yeah. Which shows, again, that determination and drive that she has. Is not only is she going to drive the 2 hours up to Bodega Bay, but then even when she gets there, she's like, well, I'm going to talk to this shop owner and figure out where Mitch is. And, oh, he's across the bay. Okay, I'll get a boat. I'll figure out how to drive a boat, and I'll take it over there.
In her fur coat.
Yeah.
And suit and heels.
Yep. It's a lot of effort for a guy who has made it pretty clear he doesn't like her.
Yeah, but I think he does like her. I think he does like her, and I love that she has this face after she drops off the birds. Mitch looks out and realizes it's her, so he goes and gets in his car and drives all the way around. And as she's going back, before the first seagull hits her, or the seagull hits her, she's looking at him and he's looking down at her. He's kind of smiling, and she just has this look at. She's looking at him like, I got it, one up on you. Yep. She stuck around
long enough for him to notice her. It's not like she was trying to be too secretive.
No.
And yeah, this was like, he makes clear that he doesn't like her, but yeah, so she kind of reads between the lines and adds to this. But I mean, you would think that should be it when a guy comes in and tells you you should be locked up behind bars and then walks off. He's probably,
yeah.
Yeah. But she goes
He's
after it
probably
anyway.
not your biggest fan. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she buys the lovebirds for Kathy and drives them all the way up there, which I laughed really hard. It was a hilarious little practical effect in the car when she's swerving around the curves, and the birds are like moving to the sides. Just a little practical effect, because I'm sure all it was like these two little wooden like puppets of birds or something with strings that they just pull to the sides. But it looked hilarious and really well done, and I thought it was great.
I loved it. It's practical effects at its best. I mean, really, it was great. I don't think that she thought that she was going to have to drive up there, because she goes to his hotel or apartment. She goes to his apartment to drop them off, and his neighbor says, well, he's not there and he won't be there for the weekend because he's gone to Bodega Bay. And so she realizes, oh, okay, where's that? How do I get there? And she just doesn't even flinch. It's like, okay, in the car we go. Up the coast we go. On to Bodega Bay.
Yep. Gets up there, goes across the bay, just walks right into his house. That's fine, right? Yeah.
Back then, I don't think people in smaller communities locked their doors.
No.
The community I grew up in, I lived on an island. We had about 600 or 700 people on the island. My parents didn't lock their door. Only when I got older did they start locking their door.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a thing. At the time, everyone's a neighbor and everyone takes care of each other. Yeah.
Yeah, but in a smaller area like that where everybody knows everybody, it's kind of...
Although the shop owner couldn't decide if the child's name was Alice or Lois, and it turned out it was Kathy.
Right. Which is funny. I enjoyed that too. The humor. They said this being a, horror movie for the most part, a thriller, but there's a lot of heart and humor as well that is very appreciated.
I love the locals just kept looking at her like, okay, you're really going to do that? Right. The guy that runs her the boat is just looking at her like, really, you're going to get down here with those shoes on and sit down and take this boat? And
but she took off before he was even all the way back on the ladder.
It's like, yeah, don't underestimate Melanie. She's ready to go.
Yes.
She's ready to go. And she doesn't appear vulnerable, like, near the beginning. Like, I feel like we got this really strong character. Yeah. It's only when she and Mitch really start talking that she gets a little more vulnerable and talks about her mom running away with another man when she was young. And I get the impression that she and her father are very close, and he takes care of her, like, because she's a socialite. Yeah. But she also does some other things that she explains to Mitch, that how she fills her days.
Yeah, and she gets to a point where she starts being honest and truthful. But even at first with Mitch, she still just can't help but spin yarns and lies. It was like, oh yeah, I'm staying. I came up here. I didn't come up here for you. I came up here to see my friend Annie Hayworth. The teacher, because we went to college together. So
yes, he knows. He sees through it. Like really, he sees through it. He knows that she likes him.
Yeah. That's still some resourcefulness, as she lies about staying with Annie and then finds a way to stay with Annie.
How can you not be endeared? I mean, she goes to Annie's, she worms her way into Annie's, and then she comes in with this paper bag that's like her luggage. She's got like a toothbrush, I think, and some toothpaste, and a nightgown that is definitely circa rural times, I guess. She's probably not used to that, but she and Annie seem to have this friendship. Like, they build this friendship. And
which was cool. And they have a really good conversation. I liked, after, like, the dinner at the Brenners, and then her and Mitch have this kind of argument or disagreement over, it was like, well, my mother knows who you are because of... but he makes that kind of sly, jab at her about, well, we can go swimming. I hear you like that. And she was like, what are you talking about? And it's like, oh, Rome. And then she's trying to defend herself about that situation. Yes. And so they have this little fight. And so she goes back to Annie's just kind of in a huff. And then that's when they have a really good conversation about, and then that's where I think Melanie would have gone home at that point and was done.
Yeah.
Except Annie was there to kind of explain a little bit more about who Mitch and Lydia are, and their relationship, their connection, and things. And it keeps Melanie around enough. And, of course, Mitch calling and asking her to go to Kathy's party the next day definitely helps. You know, after she's kind of warmed up to him a little bit through what Annie is saying, then I think she's more, you know, accepting of his offer then when he calls.
Yeah, Annie really was very honest with her. She had a connection with Mitch. They were a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she moved, even though they weren't together anymore, she moved from San Francisco to Bodega Bay just because she cares about him and wants to be there for him. And because she wants to be close to him.
Yeah.
And so she was really honest about that with her and really kind of supportive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, encourages her to go despite whatever Lydia might say. She encourages her and says, you know what? If you want to go to Kathy's party, you should go.
Yeah. Well, with her saying, like, well, that's just Lydia being Lydia. Like, even if she does like you, she's going to be cold and distant and look like she doesn't like you. Like, that's just who she is. Yeah.
I think because she has this inner fear that she's going to be alone if Mitch finds a girlfriend or a wife that he is really into, that he's going to stop coming to see her and she's going to be alone because she just feels that.
Yeah.
She's got Kathy to raise, but she still feels alone because her husband died.
Yeah.
And so she's just really... It's really sad if you look at it from Lydia's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And she and Annie got along great. Annie said they're the best of friends.
Yeah.
Now that she doesn't view Annie as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think, you know, we see Lydia warming up to Melanie throughout the movie, especially after the attack at the party and then the sparrows that flew out of the flue. Yeah. But, you know, after the, you know, first big ordeals happen, and then we have that moment where Lydia is just, like, laid up in her bed, and she's just, like, terrified and feels weak and scared and doesn't know what to do, and is kind of recoiled into herself. And Melanie takes it upon herself to make tea and bring it to her and have a conversation with her and talk about, like, you know, basically, you know, talking to her about what she had talked about with Annie without saying, well, Annie told me, but, you know, but she was just very much, you know, I know Mitch would not want to abandon you and leave you, so it would matter that you liked the person that he was with.
Yes. Yeah. And remember, too, Lydia had just gotten back from going to Mr. Fawcett's farm.
Yeah.
To talk about the feed, and she found Mr. Fawcett in his bedroom. That's one scene that haunts me from this film.
Yeah, like, especially for the standards of the 60s, that was incredibly, like, gory and scary. Like, you don't expect that with his eyes completely all gouged out and covered in blood sitting in the corner of the room. Yeah.
Yeah, that horrified me. And whenever I think of this movie, I know in the past we've talked about, when you think of this movie, what do you see? Well, that's a scene that I see. Always. You just can't get it out of your head. So, I mean, poor Lydia. I mean, she goes to see Mr. Fawcett. She finds him dead. She drives really fast to get back to the burner house.
Doesn't say anything to the handyman at all. Just leaves. Okay.
Just leaves. And then she sees that Melanie's there, and she won't let Mitch comfort her. She just, like, gets all frustrated and runs in the house.
Yeah.
And then Melanie makes her the tea a little bit later. Which, you know, I think endeared her. I do think it did endear her. Melanie taking, you know, that caretaking role.
Yeah. And then it furthers then when, after Kathy witnesses the death of Annie, her teacher, and then she's sick, and, you know, it has caused her to become sick with just, like, I don't know if it's guilt because Annie died also like saving her life, but then also just the mourning and grief.
Mm-hmm.
But Melanie takes it on herself to take care of Kathy and is like doctoring her up and is with her and keeping her, comforted. And Lydia is watching that, and I think that really helps warm her up as well.
I think so too. I think that Lydia is able to see that Melanie can bring something to this family that is like an asset, not taking something away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what she's always been worried about, is that the person would come in and change things in a way that would pull Mitch away from her. But Melanie's not trying to do that. She's just trying to come in and be helpful and be caring and fill a role because she sees that Lydia has been, terrified by her experience. So someone needs to step into that role because Mitch is busy trying to convince Al the cop, who, oh my God, dismissive of everything.
Right.
I'm just like, goodness, you're so dismissive. They're trying to explain to you what's going on and no one listens. It's the same thing later when the school's attacked by the crows. Everyone wants to dismiss it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those gulls, they were on your boat, from the attack. Captain Scholes has this gull attack on his boat a week earlier, and they're trying to dismiss that. They were after the ships. And then, so, Melanie, what?
Mm-hmm.
What were what were the crows after? And Melanie just says, I think they wanted to, they were after the kids. They wanted to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone looks at her like she's crazy, but Melanie had seen multiple instances at this point.
Yeah. I really liked that scene a lot. That's one of my favorites, is that scene there at the bar/diner. Where it was like, he's an ornithologist, a cook, a drunk apocalypse fan, a boat captain, and an annoyed mother debate the merits of bird attacks in a bar.
Yes.
Stop me if you've heard this one before. No.
No, it sounds like a podcast.
Right.
To me, it's like, join us for the Let's Talk Birds podcast. Special edition of Run for Your Lives. Yeah, we learn a lot of information from the bird expert. Like, she had a lot to say. Mrs. Bundy, she knew a lot.
Yeah.
But what she didn't know is what she didn't see.
Yeah. Well, she was very dismissive of it because she's an expert and this isn't supposed to happen. So, Of course, after the big attack with the gas pump blowing up and everything.
Oh, my goodness.
And they make it back inside and they're all huddled in the hallway. My first thought, and I wrote it down in my notes, was like, well, what now, Miss Ornithologist? Huh? Like, what do you got to say about this?
No, instead we got the crazy woman in the diner saying, Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? They said you got here, the whole thing started. Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? I think you're the cause of all of this. I think you are evil, evil. And then Melanie slaps her, and that's a real slap. I looked into it. It's a real slap.
Nice.
Tippi Hedren had to actually slap the actress. It's the first actress she'd ever slapped, so it was quite an ordeal to get that correct.
Wow. I did like that, though. It's like, shut up.
Yeah. I mean, you can only take so much before you're just like, just please be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Go over there and calm your children.
Yeah. Which, unfortunately, that's kind of one of the last great moments of Melanie, other than, like I said, her taking care of Kathy when she's sick and stuff was great. But then it kind of things switch, and that's where Mitch is more of the
caretaker,
the lead, caring, protector. To where they I don't know, it was just, then kind of at the end of the movie, we see Melanie in places I was like, really? Like the quietest violent mauling scene of all time, where she's in the bedroom just no.
I know. I know.
Like, what is this? And then the big, final attack of the birds on the house, where Mitch is fighting off the seagulls and he's getting bloodied and bit and pecked and he's pulling and tying the shutters shut. And then all the women in the house, Melly included, are just silently, awkwardly stumbling around and rolling around on the walls for some reason. And looking like they're all super drunk and delirious, and I don't know what that's supposed to be, but okay.
I think it's supposed to be their terror at the situation. That's how they were expressing their terror. This is
because when I get really scared, I gently rub my face all over the wall. That's what I do.
You do? Really? I didn't know that was a thing. I thought it was just for this movie.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Wow. It's not what I do when I get scared.
Oh,
I don't run around. No.
You don't just roll, just roll around on the wall and rub your face on it and then plop onto the couch and then stand up and plop down again.
No, I don't.
Well, that's what everybody did.
No. I curl up in a ball and cover up with a blanket and wait for it to be over. I don't know. Rolling around on the wall. It doesn't seem like a good use of time, and it doesn't seem like it would solve anything.
Or you could be like Lydia and be like, let's go to this corner of the house. Now this one, now this one, now this one, now this one. Let's just keep moving in terror, slowly and quietly.
We don't want to rouse the birds.
Right.
You have to be careful. Yeah, I wanted it to end differently for Melanie because I really liked her character until then, and I didn't want her to end up being the damsel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened at the end, is she was traumatized. And I get that she was traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted her to have a better outcome where she came out being strong.
Yeah.
More strong, I guess, than what we saw. So it disappointed me a little bit. It's the 60s.
As far as that time frame, we got a lot better than we could have for the treatment and view of a leading woman in a movie. So hey, take what we get.
I mean, she was really complex.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was complex. She wasn't just, here's this beautiful actress, here's this lovely role. She's just going to be weak the entire time. She wasn't. She was very determined, as you said earlier. I feel like we got it, 90%.
Yeah.
The last 10%, I wish they had all slowly walked the car together without her being terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that it could have ended with her being strong.
Right.
That's what I was hoping for. Didn't get it. Little disappointed, but the rest of the movie I thought was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's a classic. Great movie. So, I think that's all the notes I have on Melanie myself. Do you have more?
Let me see. No, I don't.
Ooh.
I did want to mention, though, because we're talking about Lydia, and we've talked about Kathy a little bit. Lydia Brenner was played by Jessica Tandy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Oscar winner Jessica Tandy. Long before she was in Driving Miss Daisy. And Kathy Brenner was portrayed by child actress Veronica Cartwright.
Yeah. Who had her 13th birthday while filming this movie.
Yes, she did. Yeah. I think we're ready to move on to talking a little bit about Mitch. I feel like we've said a lot about him already. But I feel like there's a little bit more.
Yeah, when we talk about where they met and kind of what the circumstances were. But I do like a lot of the positive things about his character. I mean, the fact that, she goes to Bodega Bay because that's where he spends his weekends. And he goes there every weekend just to be with his mother and his kid sister. Mm-hmm. And I like that he does have this family connection, that even though he is some I don't know how big shot, but he's, a pretty successful lawyer in the big city, San Francisco, and he knows all these people. He takes every weekend to go back to the quiet life and be with his family.
I love that Kathy said that most of the people Mitch knows in San Francisco are hoods.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the people he's defending as a lawyer. We don't learn that he's a lawyer till Melanie gets to Bodega Bay. Because that is where more of Mitch's character gets fleshed out. Yeah. She learns a lot from Kathy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, they're so fond of each other while hating each other.
I know. That whole dialogue when she's leaving after having dinner there, I just loved it, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I love that at the end of it, she gets the last word when they're fighting over, why are you here? Why do you think it would be fun to see me? And Mitch says, I think it might be fun. it's fun, it's fun for me. And she's like, well, not for me. And so he says to her, what do you want? And she's like, I thought you knew. I want to go through life jumping into fountains naked. Good night.
Yeah.
And drives off. And I just love that. I love that she wasn't afraid to say what was on her mind.
She doesn't take shit from anybody. And I like that.
Me too. And I think at that time, it was more common, I think, for women to be more respectful and not always speak like that to people. So I think that it definitely, I liked that part of her. I liked her being strong like that and just driving off. Mic drop. There you go. Original mic drop right there.
Yeah. And I like that, weird relationship that they had, and then she is convinced to go to the party. So, Mitch calls her up, takes her there, and then he's walking around with her. And like, even when she's like, well, I need to leave after this. And he's like, well, why don't you stay around? He's purposely being like, well, I was hoping that you would keep drinking so that you would have to stay for dinner again. Like, it becomes more and more clear he's fond of having her around. He
is very fond of having her around. I think he likes the mischievous side of her.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's a little mischievous, too. Like,
yeah.
There's a little bit of mischief there, and I think that they play off each other really, really well.
Mm-hmm. And then what I guess is kind of a downside, but I don't know what else you could do, because you wouldn't want to just keep dragging it out too much further. But I think things were a little quick, because, like, we go from, like, them having this, like, honest conversation at the party before the birds attack the first real time. But there's still kind of, like, that awkward thing with them. But then really, like, after that, and after Lydia comes back from the Fawcett farm, the next time we really see the two of them together, they're kissing passionately before he heads off to the farm. I was like, I know. Well, we skipped a bunch of steps, but okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. We're not following any particular rule book or guidebook on relationships.
Yeah.
You know what? It was love at first sight, and they're smitten.
Yeah, there we go.
That's all you can think. That's what you have to think.
Yeah, I was like, well, that was quick, but all right.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take it.
I have a note here of Mitch that he keeps referring to his mother as dear and darling, which I'm sure that was normal in that time, but it's a little strange to me.
It was a different time.
Yes. But yeah, that's about all I have on Mitch, which it's kind of the reverse version of a lot of stuff, as we talked for 40 minutes about the lead actor, and then be like, and then the lead actress, she was there too. And now it's so it's kind of refreshing to be like, we talked 40 minutes about Melanie, and we're like, and Mitch was there too. So
yeah, and here's Mitch. He's a lawyer from San Francisco.
Yep.
He visits his hometown every weekend to see his mother and sister, and he wants Melanie to be on the receiving end of a gag. Like, he wants her to understand what it's like to be on the reverse of the pranks, and she seems to do that. I did love, there was one conversation that Mitch was having with his mother, where she was talking about Melanie jumping into the fountain naked in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And he just says, I think I can handle Melanie Daniels by myself, because she's kind of pushing him. I think she was trying to figure out where his head was at with regard to Melanie. And so she, kind of tiptoes around things, and he just finally, was like, yep, I can handle her myself. Doesn't need mommy to help him with that, which I thought was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the only other thing I have, Mitch, is just I like that scene again at the end after the attack and stuff, and he's kind of tended to Melanie and got her back to health as much as he can, but he knows she needs a doctor. They have to get out, and he makes his way to the garage, and he listens in, and Bodega Bay's been completely closed off, so they have to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes, takes it upon himself to open up the garage and slowly drive the car out, get everybody to it. So I do enjoy that, even though it is very ominous, because he's walking around just like all these birds that are like mostly calm. A couple of them like bite or peck at him, but he stays calm. So it is an interesting thing. So we never really know exactly what the issue with the birds is, or what drives them to attack or then not to attack. And then it's a little weird, but I kind of don't mind the mystery of it either.
Sometimes it's better not to know. Rod Taylor, who played Mitch, he said that seagulls were fed a mixture of wheat and whiskey. It was the only way to get them to stand around so much.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, all right. That works, I guess.
Yeah, that's all I really have on him. And even Lydia and Kathy would be our next, and I've said everything that I had on them.
Yeah, I feel like we've covered that as well. I felt bad that Annie, had to sacrifice herself to save Kathy because I liked her character.
Yeah.
The fact that she had been involved with Mitch and lost him, but was still willing to encourage Melanie to go for it. Especially because she doesn't know who she is.
Yeah.
They acted like, they were getting to know each other. But, again, it's a one-night thing because this took place over a couple of days. Like, it wasn't a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think I even have any more character notes. But I do have, like, this timeline I put together of the bird attacks.
Yeah.
And how it all transpired. Do you have any more character notes?
Just the character of Annie, a little bit more. Just, I talked about their conversation, which leads me kind of again to another note I had about Lydia that I forgot also. But it was because of that conversation, because I noticed Lydia being very, like, distrustful and distant and cold at first, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I wasn't sure what was going on, but then after the conversation that Melanie and Annie have, it cleared all that up, and then I was like, oh, like, we saw all of that in Lydia even before we knew what her deal was. And so I just said the acting in this movie for everybody is just superb, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was good. I was like, maybe, Veronica Cartwright playing Kathy was overdoing the eager child thing a little bit too much, but it's also the 60s, so that's kind of how every kid actor was going to be.
Yes.
Like, when all the kids are running from the birds and, like, 20% of them look like they're really happy to be being attacked, but the other ones were doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm looking to see it. It was one of her earliest roles.
Mm-hmm.
She'd been in a couple of other films, including The Children's Hour, which was a really well done film from 1961 that we're not going to cover on Run for Your Lives because it doesn't fit our theme, but it's a really, really well done movie, so I think people should check it out.
Cool.
Yeah, she was a child actress, and her sister Angela was also a child actress who was in The Sound of Music.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of like an acting family.
Cool.
If you will.
Yeah. I enjoyed a lot of stuff. The song that the kids were singing while Melanie's waiting outside.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Was interesting. Quite unique. But okay. I ended up singing along with it after a while because it was just catchy. But then that's also with that scene with, like, while they're singing along and then you see the crows kind of slowly filling up the jungle gym. It was really ominous. I liked that scene a lot. But then, Melanie goes back inside and kind of tells Annie what's going on. And I was like, man, these kids seem really unfazed. Maybe a tiny bit annoyed, but, like, not worried when Miss Hayworth is like, now we're all going to quietly head to our homes. And then when I tell you to, you're all going to run for your lives. And they're all like, okay. That makes sense. We do this normally.
Representing Run for Your Lives.
Yes.
There you go.
But yeah, and after all the attacks and everything die down, Mitch and Melanie go back to Annie's place to get Kathy. And then, unfortunately, when they get there, Annie has been killed. Kathy is safe indoors. We find out that Annie died heroically saving Kathy. When they started attacking, she pushed her inside and then was swarmed. And, Mitch is affected by that and almost angrily throws a rock at the crows. To which Melanie tells him, no, don't do that. And I was like, yeah, it's a good call. Let's not spin them back up into a murder frenzy right now.
Yeah, no.
Murder of crows. Murdering people. I'll see myself out. No.
Yes, Pake, you know how I am with overusage of puns. You know how it goes.
Yep.
I'll forgive you this time. This time, I'll forgive you.
Uh-huh. Is that why they're called A Murder of Crows? Was it because of this movie? Or was that already a thing that was set before this? I don't even know when that was a thing.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah. That's all the character notes, other than scenes and stuff about the birds themselves that I have. But yeah.
Okay, well, I put together this timeline kind of how things unfolded, so you can kind of see, like, the amount of time that things took. One thing I added, though, is Captain Scholes talked about... Later in the movie, Captain Scholes was talking about gulls attacking one of his boats and, like, almost ripping the arm off the skipper, and that happened a week prior to all of these events, but I kind of put it at the start of the timeline.
Yeah.
Outside of that, Melanie gets to Bodega Bay, and she's attacked by a seagull on a rowboat. The same day, Lydia learns that the feed she purchased from Drinkmeyer for the chickens won't eat, and Mr. Fawcett's chickens won't eat either, even though they have a different type of feed. There were all of these birds resting on the wires outside the Brenner home when Melanie leaves after having dinner with them on her first night in Bodega Bay, followed by a gull smashing into Annie's door, which Annie thinks he lost his way in the dark, but it's a full moon. So that's kind of day one.
Mm-hmm.
Day two, the gulls attack Kathy's birthday party. That night, sparrows come in through the fireplace. The next morning, and that's pretty much it for that day.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning, Lydia finds Dan Fawcett dead by bird attack, although the police think it was a break-in. And the birds came after, because, you know, Deputy Al, he's on the case.
Right. You know, you can look at the dead birds with, you know, blood all over them and their beaks and stuff, but who needs to pay attention to that?
I mean, really, why would you? So Melanie goes to the school on the very same day. She leaves Lydia at the house. Melanie goes and sits on the bench outside the school. Behind her, we see all the crows gathering on the jungle gym. And she gets the kids, Annie and the kids, to leave the school and get them out of there so that the gulls won't, like, break in and break the glass or whatever and break in through those windows.
Yes, because we want the crows to attack all the children in the street, not in the building.
Well, I wondered about that myself. I'm like, why not? Can you just pull the shades down? Turn the lights off? I don't know. I wondered about that. As they run down towards the town, after she makes it to the restaurant, outside, a gas station attendant's attacked by a gull. And Mr. Carter, the traveling salesman, blows up after a match ignites gas that had spilled. So that was kind of all tied together.
Mm-hmm.
And then later that night, Melanie's attacked by birds in the Brenner attic. And that was kind of the chronological order. So it kind of took place over 3 days.
Yeah.
If you don't count the incident from a week earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
so
good.
what do you have for bird notes?
Oh, just kind of the same thing. I was just kind of going through, the different events. You know, it begins with the seagulls swooping down, attacking children and balloons alike at the party. And then, you know, things kind of seem to die down, but then, like the pun I dropped earlier, I'll do it again, when the sparrows, you know, flew from the flu and attacked everybody, you know, attacked them in the house. And then, you know, I skip over some of the stuff, but yeah, when we get to the schoolhouse is the next really big one. We take all the kids outside so then they can be attacked much easier.
Yes, of course.
And but luckily all of the kids make it away to safety. They do mention one kid had to be hospitalized, but the rest made it pretty, you know, safely and fine, albeit, you know, a few cuts, scrapes, and wounds. But Kathy and Melanie managed to save a little girl who was knocked down and swarmed, and they pulled her into a car, which I immediately think of the album cover of the metalcore band Norma Jean and their 2006 album Redeemer, which is just a crow attacking and biting a terrified schoolgirl. And so I was like,
oh boy.
Yeah.
Only you would draw that conclusion.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite bands. But yeah. And so, yeah, so I talked about the bar scene where, yeah, it sounds like a bad setup to a joke. Ornithologist, cook, drunk apocalypse fan, boat captain, and annoyed mother debate the merits of bird attacks in a bar.
It's so funny because that mother was sympathetic toward Melanie until she went outside and tried to get in her car and then had to run back in.
Yeah.
Then by the time Melanie gets out of being trapped in the telephone booth and gets back in the building, the mother is like, thinks that she's the devil.
Right.
So
it was kind of a quick change.
Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
didn't understand that, but okay,
Yeah,
if that's what you feel.
because that's when these attacks begin again. And they spilled the gasoline all over the street, which sent the mother and her kids back into the diner. Guy lights up a cigar, goes boom, taking a bunch of other cars and the gas pump with him. And then I loved the guy spraying the water from the fire hoses all over the place because they're attempting to fight the fire and the birds at the same time. And so it's just going everywhere, and it was really fun. And there's a horse-drawn carriage there too, because.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, all of these years later, like the sights and the sounds of the crows all gathered creepily on the playground are really still decently unsettling. Because that's even when they're going back to Annie's house to get Kathy, and they have to walk past that playground again, and there's just all the crows there, and you just hear kind of the one or two of them cawing. And it's really unsettling. They did a really good job with that, for sure. And then they go back to the house, they hunker down, board up all of the windows, and keep a fire lit. And that actually does the job for the most part, you know. Do have to fight some seagulls off to re-tie down the shutters on one of the windows. Have to nail a mirror and its, you know, dresser and everything that it's on to a door to keep them from coming through it. But other than that, it was good. Then I talked about them deliriously rubbing their faces and bodies all over the walls out of terror. One of my favorite effects, though, was really cool, was this really big bird shriek sound as the lights went off in the house. And then you just have the firelight flicker lighting, which was really cool. And then, yeah, all the birds gathered outside the house after the main attack before they leave was really crazy and really cool. So, yeah, that's about all I have.
All right. This was your first time seeing this film, so.
It was.
There's a lot,
I think I've mentioned that before. I haven't seen a lot of older films.
I know. And
so, they're in the zeitgeist. I know about them very well, but actually having taken the time to sit and watch them, I haven't most of them. And so it's great to go back and actually watch this. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, we have lots of others that are from the 70s, especially, that we will get to on this podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to introducing you to some other wonderful films over the next few months and beyond.
I had a couple other little like random notes, but I was going to see if you didn't already have them in your production stuff first.
Please feel free to use them, and I won't say them in production notes.
All right. Yeah, I was trying to see a couple of random notes that I had that were not related to characters and birds and stuff. I saw that at the UK premiere of the movie, audience members were met with the sounds of birds screeching and flapping on speakers that they had put in the trees outside after the film had finished to scare them a little bit further.
Yes. Let's scare them more.
Yeah.
Let's terrify them even more.
The setting of Bodega Bay I really enjoyed because it's just kind of this adorable little coastal fishing town, which personally I've always kind of wanted to live in one.
Really?
I love those kind of areas. Very specifically, I've been drawn to a certain town, which is not even a fishing town and not even coastal. It's on the Mississippi River, but it has that really cool like view, like feel and like stuff to it. But it's the town of Alton, Illinois, which is tiny and small, and it's right on the river. I drove through it once years and years ago on the way to a music festival, and
you loved it.
It just has stuck in my head ever since then. But honestly, like the actual coastal with the seafood and like the fishing town, I'd love to go somewhere in Maine, Maryland, North Carolina. There's East Coast marine towns, you know, like that's...
You really have to come to Maine and check out some of these things because it's very similar here.
Yeah. And then a lot of use of green screen, mainly for vehicles, the boats, the cars, things like that, which you don't see that much nowadays. At least if you do, you don't notice it.
Yeah. I think it was more noticeable because it was early. I mean, I feel like it was early days for that.
And then, of course, again, with the town, I love the setup. And so did I immediately crave and then order a seafood platter online after they walked into the Tides restaurant?
Not do that.
Maybe I did. I will neither confirm nor deny the fact that I ordered fried catfish, grilled whitefish, some shrimp, and some fried oysters because a seafood platter at a little like seafood place sounded really good after they walked into that Tides restaurant. Maybe,
of
maybe
course. Not. Yeah, that's the vibe, though. Pake, that's the vibe. We have a diner in Maine, down on the waterfront called Becky's. It's where I take just about anyone who comes to visit Maine. I've taken people there for breakfast. I've taken them there for lunch and dinner because the lobster is really great and it's right on the waterfront.
Oof, yes.
It's really got this great diner feel. And Guy Fieri even was there, like stopped by there. So,
yeah. The Tides restaurant, which is a real place, is one of the places I marked on my Google Maps to where I'm going to have to go there. And
oh my goodness.
And check it out, which, I could go into quotes because I have a quote that's based on a fun production note about the owner of that place, but we'll get to that later.
Ooh. You know what? I think I have that in my production notes. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
I think you do.
Are we ready for those?
Yeah, let's get into them.
All right. So, Tippi Hedren was discovered by Hitchcock, we mentioned this earlier, who saw her in a television commercial in 1961. She won a Golden Globe for her portrayal of Melanie Daniels.
Awesome.
And she also appeared in Hitchcock's film Marnie, and they had a very difficult relationship. There's a lot of information out there, that articles and just info on her relationship with Hitchcock. Marnie was a wonderful film. It's very difficult to... When watching it, it really harkens back to childhood trauma and lots of different feelings when you watch it, basically. So I think that it's definitely not like The Birds. It's just a very different, suspenseful movie.
Yeah.
And Tippi Hedren is amazing in it.
I do want to go back and watch more of her stuff.
Yeah. Hitchcock, who has cameos in many of his films, appeared as a pet shop customer leaving with 2 dogs, which was right at the beginning when Melanie was walking in. He was leaving with his 2 dogs. They were his own dogs.
Oh, nice.
So that is his cameo. The crow that sits on Alfred Hitchcock's shoulder in all of the promotional photos was not in the movie. It was purchased after the movie had wrapped. Hitchcock revealed on the Dick Cavett show that 3,200 birds were trained for the movie. He said the ravens were the cleverest and the seagulls were the most vicious. Mitch Zanich, owner of the Tides restaurant at the time of the shooting, told Alfred Hitchcock he could shoot there if the lead male in the movie was named after him, and Hitchcock gave him a speaking part in the movie. After Melanie is attacked by a seagull, Mitch Zanich can be heard saying to Mitch Brenner, "What happened, Mitch?" Little info about the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse in Bodega has been known to be haunted, even back during filming. According to Hedren, the entire cast was spooked to be there. Hitchcock was told about the schoolhouse being haunted. According to Hedren, he was even more encouraged to film there.
Of course. Of course
he was. Several endings were considered. One of those would have involved showing the Golden Gate Bridge completely covered by birds.
Ooh,
very scary.
I almost, random tangent, I almost picked up the like ultra, like 4K, whatever, like Blu-ray version of The Birds that I saw at a store that I go to in the mall the other day. And I really wish I would have, because I looked on the, bonus features and stuff it came with, and it had the original ending on there. And I should have picked it up so I could have seen what that was. And I still might do that.
I have the DVD. It's right up there. So I should probably pull it out. And yeah, it's not 4K, but it came as part of... I don't know. I've never looked. I'll have to check it out.
All right.
Melanie wears the same green suit throughout the movie, so Tippi Hedren was provided with 6 identical green suits for the shoot. When the children are running down the street from the schoolhouse, extra footage was shot back on the Universal sound stages to make the scene even more terrifying. A few of the children were brought back and put in front of a process screen on a treadmill. They ran in front of the screen on the treadmill with Bodega Bay footage behind them, while a combination of real and fake crows were attacking them. Can you imagine you're on a soundstage and all that's going on?
Right.
Oh my God. And you're a child. Oh, you're a child, and that's what's happening to you. After the film premiered in New York City, and as a special favor to Tippi Hedren, Hitchcock allowed her to take a copy of the film home with her when she visited her hometown in Minneapolis. And on April Fool's Day, 1963, Hedren hosted her parents and around 130 residents of Lafayette, Minnesota, where her parents lived and also where she was born, to an exclusive screening of the film at the local neighborhood theater that Hedren had been to a lot in her youth, called the Westgate. And my final note, in 1994, a television sequel was released, but it was poorly received. It focused on new characters, including Tippi Hedren returning as a new character in a supporting role. Yeah. She was disappointed as she felt it was a mistake in not having her role be more of a cameo. When asked what Hitchcock would have thought about it, she responded, "I'd hate to think what he would say."
Mm-hmm.
I think that alludes to he wouldn't be very happy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. This isn't a Psycho 2 situation.
Mm-hmm. I think that wraps up pretty much all of our conversation about the movie. Other than, of course, our quotes, which I don't have a lot, but...
I have a couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have literally a couple, as in two. And one of them we mentioned, I threw it in there and then found the fun information that you said in the production notes of the guy on the dock saying, "What happened, Mitch?" It's like, "Goal hitter." A goal? Which, that
Too
quote is
funny.
special because, you said Mitch Zanich, who the lead character of Mitch, or, lead male role at least, of Mitch Brenner is named after him because he was the owner of the Tides, and the only way he would let Hitchcock film in his restaurant was, well, you name the character after me, and then Hitchcock decided to give him a speaking role as a little extra bonus too. So yeah, that's cool. And then the last one is during that conversation while Melanie is in her car about to leave, and they're kind of arguing about her Rome situation. And after she explained, I was pushed in, and she's explaining what happened, and Mitch says, "Oh, you were just a poor innocent victim of circumstances." To which she cuts in, "Well, I'm neither poor nor innocent."
No, you gotta love that. I love too the quote where she tells him what was in the note that she wrote him that she tore up, where she's like, it said, "Dear Mr. Brenner, I think you need these lovebirds after all. They may help your personality."
Yeah.
I loved that. I thought it was great. It was so good. Did you have any more? Or
That's all I had.
Okay. So this is what I have. When Mitch tells her that he thinks she really likes him, she responds with, "I loathe you. You have no manners. You're arrogant and conceited. I wrote you a letter about it, in fact, but I tore it up." I love that. Then they're further on when Melanie is trying to explain to those in the diner that the birds are acting strange and that it's gulls and crows and swifts, etc. Those are some of the birds. Mrs. Bundy says, "I've never known birds of different species to flock together. The very concept is unimaginable. Why, if that happened, we wouldn't stand a chance. How could we possibly hope to fight them? It's like birds of a feather flock together, but in this case, they're all flocking together." And when responding to Mr. Carter, the traveling salesman, who said gulls are scavengers, and he tells the residents to get guns and wipe them off the face of the earth, good old Mrs. Bundy, the elderly ornithologist, says, "That would hardly be possible. Because there are 8,650 species of birds in the world today, Mr. Carter. It is estimated that 5,750,000,000 birds live in the United States alone. The 5 continents of the world probably contain more than 100 billion birds." And there you have it.
Yeah.
Those are my quotes.
All right. Well then, rankings is all that's left to do.
I know.
We've done it. We've covered the birds.
Yes, we have. But what did you think of the birds, Pake? That is the burning question. It's the burning question on all of our minds right now. What ranking is Pake going to give the birds?
All right. Well, my ranking, considering such a classic, and of course there's, cultural things and stuff that I was like, doesn't hold up 100%. But a lot of the stuff was really good even for its time. It was really good. And a lot of the stuff was still very tense, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I landed right on an 8 for my ranking on this.
Really?
I did.
That is wonderful. I have enjoyed this movie since the first time I saw it. It's, as I said earlier, it's not my favorite Hitchcock film, but my favorite film doesn't really fit in this genre of the movies we cover, so we won't be covering it. But in the end, I landed on an 8.4.
Nice.
For this film. So we were kind of similar this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This was a good one, I think, for us to dip our feet into the earlier classic modes.
Yeah. It's always good to go back and visit older movies that have like a huge cultural impact. So it's always fun to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what people thought of this movie, Pake.
I will have to figure that out. Let me answer.
All right. Go for it.
All right. We do have a little bit of feedback, some messages from some friends of ours, all referring back to last week's episode of The Impossible, which, I think a lot of people, we heard from some people who listened to our coverage of it first and then went back and watched it, or, went back and checked things out. It is a heavy movie, and some people weren't really sure, but then, they went into it, and I'm glad they did, because some people have given us some good feedback and thoughts on this one. So we'll get into those a little bit. Why don't you start us off?
All right. Our friend Derek says, The Impossible made me cry at the start and at the end. Great movie.
All right. Our friend Jerry said, The Impossible is terrifying. And that's it. That's all he said. And you know what? I fully agree. That is a... Whew.
It's heavy because it's something that really happened.
Yeah, I really liked it. I don't know if I'd want to go back and watch it a second time, though.
No.
It's a lot to take in.
I watched it originally, and then I also watched it this time. I think that may be the last time I watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. Check it out. It is rough. It's a hard watch in some cases, in some ways, but it's really a fantastic movie.
One of our friends told us earlier tonight that he's listened to our coverage and he's not sure he can watch the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So our friend Maria actually sent us 2 posts, one before she listened to the podcast, one after. So the first one she sent is, I fell behind on podcasts and I just saw you covered this one. I saw this movie a while back and did not know that was Tom Holland. Well, actually, I did not know who he was when I saw this movie. We'll need to rewatch it now. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Spider-Man fandoms collide. They are both very good actors, Naomi Watts as well. In her second post, she says, I listened to the podcast. You did a great job covering such a heartbreaking story. I knew it was a true story, but hadn't read about the real family. Thanks for the background on them. Great performance from all these actors.
Awesome. And thanks, Maria, for the before and after feedback. That's interesting. There's another new one.
Yeah.
Patent that.
Yeah. The before and after feedback. Patented by Maria.
Our listeners come up with great feedback, unique styles. I love them.
I know. It's so awesome.
So what kind of episode of Run for Your Lives would it be without some patented live Steving from our good friend, Steve Brown?
We have a long one from him this week, and here it is.
All right, Daphne and Pake, this is Steve, and only for you guys will I do this. I'm going to live Steve the Birds. I just started it. Wait, this movie's from 1963, so they retroactively rated it PG-13? What was it rated in 1963? And it was based on a book or story by Daphne du... Hey, there's Alfred Hitchcock walking the dogs. He always puts himself in his own movies. And to protect us from pretentious men who use big words like ornithological reason, I can't do it. Is this supposed to be the 1960s version of a meet cute, or do they already know each other? They're just going to leave us hanging about the minor bird? And now she's got these 2 lovebirds and she's driving to meet a guy. I guess that's what a terrifying rom-com is all about.
Terrifying rom-com.
Oh, 1960s small town shopkeeper, give you all the information you need to sneak up on some strange guy in his house and just do whatever you want to his daughter. Oh, the 1960s. Break into somebody's house, leave them some birds, and they'll chase you down at the dock. And we have our first bird attack. Well, that was a lot of exposition, but it really needed to set up all these particular characters for us, I guess. Oh, thank you for the closure of the Mina bird. I needed that. They're coming in through the chimney? Dang. Dude, this house is trashed. And you're just like, oh yeah, birds, that's what they do. They get inside and they panic. You know, birds be crazy. You might want to check on your boss when you get a chance. He's got no eyes. Yeah, this plan's not going to work. These kids are not going to be able to, or the birds are not going to let these kids just go quietly. Wow. I mean, I don't know how they did the effects in this, but Hitchcock was so good about getting his actors. I mean, the actors are good too, but Hitchcock had to direct it and direct them. Okay, just an observation. This is a well-stocked bar. I don't know what all that is that's back behind him, but man. And now we have fire. Remember, this was 1963. Go easy on the effects artists. Oh, well, at least the girl's alive, but aw. Yeah, Mitch, probably not a good idea to provoke him right now. Don't throw that rock. Wow, that was tense. I don't know how long that scene lasted. No dialogue, just Rod Taylor running around the house, fortifying it, and now the birds are gone. What the hell? I don't even know how to respond to, why would she open the door and now everybody's at risk? And I guess Rod Taylor saved her life. I'm way too long. Sorry, guys. I'm on the edge of my seat of how this is going to end with them. They're all in the car and they're driving away. Seriously? That's it? That's the end? Okay. Sorry that this was so long, but can't wait to hear it.
Oh, wait, Steve. Just bravo. That was awesome. Even if it was a little long, you were coming hard with the quips tonight, and I mean, legitimately busted out laughing numerous times listening to it. So thank you for that. I needed that tonight so bad.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Steve. Your thoughts are always appreciated.
Yes.
And I could tell where you were in the movie based on what you were saying.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of took me back to it. And I appreciate that you told us to go easy on the effects, because you know how we are about effects here. And I appreciate you want us to go easy on them. And I think we were pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're good about putting, stuff in context of the time it was released, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed that, Steve. I appreciate you taking the time to send us your thoughts on the birds.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, thanks to Steve and everybody else who left us feedback this week. If anybody else would like to leave us any feedback for the birds, the impossible, anything else we've covered, or what we're covering next week, which we will tell you shortly, or anything else that you want us to cover, you can always, hit us up. We've had people hit us up on Twitter and say, like, hey, you should check out this movie. And we add stuff to our list. So always just communicate with us in any way, about anything. We love hearing from our listeners and talking to you guys. It's always great. And a couple of ways you can do all of those things, of course, is you can hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/runforyourlivespodcast. You can email us or send us voicemails like Steve does at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at RFYL Podcast and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast. But mainly, if you are enjoying the show, share the love, tell your friends. You can just send everybody to runforyourlivespodcast.com, where you can get links to all of those social media pages and all of our podcast players. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Audible. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere, watching you always. Just kidding. But yeah, we're there. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, of course, rate, review, give us 5 stars. Makes us feel so happy.
Yes, definitely.
All right, I'll go ahead and give a couple shout outs to things that are going on in the podcast universe around us. Of course, over on Strange Indeed, me and Rima still going through the Apple TV original Stephen King adaptation of Lisey's story. I'm having a blast with it. I honestly am. It's been so good.
You guys are doing such a great job with it. I told Rima earlier that as soon as it dropped last night, I knew I couldn't listen to it right away because it would keep me up. So I waited, and first thing this morning, as soon as I clocked in for work, I had it going because I wanted to hear what theories you guys were coming up with, because I'm one of the few in our friend group that actually has read the book, and it's fun to hear what you and some of the listeners are coming up with for ideas for what's really going on.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yep, it's been interesting. It's we get a lot of feedback over there. People are like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you guys are covering this, and you're breaking things down and helping us understand it." And it's like, well, I'm glad you feel that way, because we're just pulling a lot of this is right out of thin air. Like, we don't even know. We're trying to figure it out alongside you, but it's been a lot of fun for sure. So on some other podcasts, right here on the Pirate Core Entertainment Network, Adrenaline Cinema is back. Mark and Jamie covered the 80s classic and one of my favorite movies of all time, The Goonies. And so I loved listening to that episode. It was so good. So definitely check that out if you're a fan of The Goonies. They did a great job covering that. And then Panels to Pixels, Mark's other podcast. Mark and Steve are covering Loki on Disney+.
Which is a great series. So much fun. I'm enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. And if
there's some great TV out right now, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there's some really great shows. There's some that aren't even being covered by our friends.
Yeah.
That I'm into, so.
Yep. And if you need more Loki goodness and double dose of that, then you can also listen to TV Podcast Industries, where they are also covering Loki and Disney Plus's Star Wars series, The Bad Batch.
Yes, they're having a blast with that.
Mm-hmm. Watched it in the 80s podcast. Damien has released the next episode, The Abyss. So that is a great one to check out.
Great movie. It's science fiction, deep ocean. Yeah, it's really cool.
Mm. And finally, on Wilhelm, our good friend Ben has as a guest Alex this week, and they're talking about their favorite Disney villains. That one is going to be really interesting. That one comes out today, so definitely check that out. I'm excited to listen to that one as well.
Me too. Who's your favorite Disney villain?
Oh, man. That is a really tough one. I'd have to think on that one a little bit.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Maybe we'll answer it in a future episode.
Yeah. Don't put me on the spot.
I can't think of mine either. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, is it this? No, I don't really like them, because I feel like a favorite villain is one that you have to actually like.
Yeah. I mean, does Killmonger from Black Panther count? Disney owns Marvel, right?
Yeah. Oh, Killmonger was great. Oh my gosh. So good. So good.
Yeah. Well, all right. Next week, right here on Run for Your Lives, Daphne, tell people what they got coming for them.
Well, as you know, it's getting close to Independence Day, so it's time for another Run for Your Lives holiday special. Next week, we're going to tackle the 1996 science fiction action film Independence Day. And it won't just be Pake and I on this little trip either. We are joined by our good friend Ben from the Next Level Podcast Network and Wilhelm to break down the movie that was a catalyst for Will Smith, taking him from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to the action star we know and love today.
Yes. Awesome. It's a really good one. So, definitely send in your feedback and thoughts on Independence Day. We would love to hear what a lot of people say for that.
And with that, we've reached the end of another fun episode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run from hundreds of birds of a feather that are flocking together, you'd better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.